the quiet town of Ashwood, life moved at a slow, predictable pace. The streets were lined with neat houses, gardens full of vibrant flowers, and trees that swayed gently in the breeze. It was the kind of place where nothing extraordinary ever seemed to happen, and the people were content with their peaceful routines. Officer Daniel had moved to Ashwood just a few months ago, seeking a quieter life after years of intense work in a bustling city. He and his wife had settled into a small house, and she had found a job at the local hospital. The thought of relaxing in this serene town filled him with hope for his last few years of service before retirement. But everything changed the night he received a call that would shatter the calm. "Officer Daniel, we need you to head to 455 Willow Drive." A distress call came from a young girl named Harper. She said she was scared. Then the line went dead. The dispatcher's voice trembled slightly, betraying her own unease. Even though Ashwood was a quiet place, there had been an undercurrent of tension recently. Unexplained disappearances, strange sightings, whispers that something was amiss in the idyllic town. "I'm on my way," Daniel said, trying to keep his voice steady. He quickly grabbed his flashlight, gun, and keys. His wife, Rebecca, was already asleep, unaware of the danger about to unfold. Officer Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong as he drove through the empty streets toward the address. He told himself to think positively, just as Rebecca always told him. Positivity attracts good things. But deep down, he couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling of dread creeping up. When Daniel arrived at the house, everything seemed quiet, too quiet. He parked his car, the headlights casting long shadows across the porch, and stepped out into the crisp night air. The house looked normal on the outside, but there was a strange unease that hung in the air. He walked around the darkened exterior, checking for any sign of forced entry or broken windows. Nothing seemed out of place, yet every instinct told him that something was wrong. The door was locked. He knocked lightly and called out, but there was no answer. His mind raced, the fear for the little girl, Harper, tightening his chest. He had to get inside. Without hesitation, he stepped back, positioned his shoulder against the door, and with one powerful push, broke it open. The sound of splintering wood cut through the night like a gunshot. Inside, the house was eerily silent, save for the sound of his own footsteps echoing in the hallway. His flashlight beam swept over the dark interior, and Daniel immediately noticed the disarray. Furniture overturned, drawers pulled out, and items scattered across the floor. The place looked like it had been ransacked, but there was no sign of struggle. No sign of Harper's parents, either. His heart pounded in his chest as he moved deeper into the house. "Harper?" he called out softly, his voice barely a whisper in the overwhelming stillness. There was no response. He moved toward the stairs, his senses on high alert. The beam of his flashlight danced across the walls as he ascended, the cold air seeping in through the cracked window, sending a chill down his spine. At the top of the stairs, he froze. Strange symbols had been drawn on the walls, their lines jagged and unsettling. They seemed to pulse in the light of his flashlight, an unnatural presence marking every surface they touched. Shivers ran down his back as he moved through the hallway, carefully checking each door. But the deeper he went into the house, the more his unease grew. Nothing made sense. This wasn't just a break-in. This was something much darker. Finally, he reached the last door at the end of the hallway. His pulse quickened as he gently pushed it open. Inside, he saw the little girl curled up in the corner, her body shaking with fear. Her wide eyes locked on his, and she let out a small sob. "Harper," he said gently, crouching beside her. "It's okay. You're safe now. I'm here to help you." Harper didn't respond immediately. She just stared at him with a mix of fear and confusion. His heart broke for her. How long had she been hiding in here, alone and terrified? He could only imagine the horrors she had witnessed. Daniel's protective instincts kicked in. He scooped her up in his arms, careful not to startle her further, and cradled her close. "I'm taking you out of here, Harper. You're going to be okay." But even as he held her, his mind raced. Where were Harper's parents? How had this house gotten into such a state? The symbols on the walls, the disarray, it all pointed to something sinister, something far beyond a simple break-in. As Daniel moved swiftly toward the door, Harper clung to him, her small arms wrapped tightly around his neck. He stepped over debris, careful not to trip, as he made his way toward the stairs. Every step was an agonizing wait, as if the house itself was holding its breath, waiting to reveal its next secret. Just as he was about to reach the front door, his radio crackled to life. Daniel, do you copy? It was Officer Joyce's voice, urgent and steady. I copy, Joyce. I need backup. Immediately, he said, trying to keep his voice calm, even though his heart was pounding. The house is in disarray. There are strange symbols everywhere. I don't know what happened, but Harper's parents aren't here, and something's wrong. We're on our way. Hold tight. Daniel didn't waste any time. With Harper still in his arms, he pushed open the front door and stepped into the cold night air. The silence of the neighborhood felt suffocating, as though the entire town was holding its breath along with him. He made his way to his patrol car, looking around for any sign of danger. The darkness seemed deeper here than in the city, almost oppressive. He carefully placed Harper in the front seat of his car and wrapped his jacket around her, trying to shield her from the cold. I'm sorry, Harper. This is all so scary. But you're safe now. We'll figure this out, he whispered. The stillness of the night was interrupted by the sound of approaching sirens. Backup had arrived. Daniel quickly briefed the officers on the situation and led them back to the house. They moved carefully, scanning the area for any signs of danger. The house had to be searched thoroughly. As they entered, Daniel's mind raced with possibilities. Where were Harper's parents? What had happened here? The officers spread out, checking every room and searching for any clues. It was Officer Joyce who made the breakthrough. Look at these symbols, she said, pointing to the walls. This is some sort of cult language. The realization hit Daniel like a ton of bricks. A cult. This wasn't just a random break-in. This was something far more sinister. And Harper's family had been caught in the middle of it. Stay sharp, Daniel ordered, his voice grim. We need to find out where her parents are. They searched the house thoroughly, uncovering more evidence that pointed to the cult's involvement. And then, hidden beneath an old mat in the kitchen, they found a trap door leading to a hidden basement. The officers descended into the basement, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. There, bound and unconscious, were Harper's parents. They were alive, but barely. Daniel and the officers worked quickly to free them, cutting the ropes that had held them captive. As Harper's parents regained consciousness, their eyes filled with shock and relief. Harper, who had been clinging to Daniel for safety, ran to her parents, tears streaming down her face as they embraced her tightly. In that moment, everything changed. The danger was far from over, but they had found the missing pieces to the puzzle. The cult's grip on this family had finally been broken. Daniel's heart swelled with pride, knowing that he had helped save this family from the horrors that had once seemed so distant in Ashwood. But there were still many questions left unanswered. What had driven the cult to target this particular family? What was their ultimate goal? And most importantly, who was behind the cult? These questions would fuel the next phase of the investigation. But for now, Daniel could allow himself a brief moment of peace as he watched Harper reunite with her parents, safe and sound at last. As the officers gathered outside, preparing to take the cult members into custody, Daniel stood at the edge of the yard, looking up at the stars. The night had been long and filled with terror, but as the first light of dawn began to break, it brought with it a new hope. If you enjoyed this thrilling chapter, make sure to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more exciting twists and turns in the Ashwood Mystery Series. Don't miss out on the next chapter. Stay tuned for more secrets to be uncovered.